You don't get to do wealth transfers. That's embezzlement, larceny, or even grand larceny. You don't get to break up a happy home, because those are the facets or conditions that can necessarily bring about suicide, and so therefore cause clinical depression, and so therefore qualify should this person die as attempted murder on your part. You also don't get to do human sacrifice rituals, because for obvious reasons, that's just murder. And yet your dumb country is refusing to regulate what spells witches can do. It's getting dark, so let me finish this discussion out on the street. I'm on the street. Is it evident? Anyway, not so much the street, somewhere near it. Anyway, you gotta love the work of painkillers, Yezwa. They just take away the pain. I can't believe I can't feel a thing. Whereas earlier I was feeling many things. Now I'm just numb, even emotionally. Anyway, I'm kidding. Okay, yeah, listen, alright, Mamelang, herein lies the general deal. If at all you're going to run a constitution, a liberated country, if at all you're going to be somewhat fair in what you're doing in these uneasy streets, you cannot outlaw any single religion. That's the kind of stuff that many democracies are made up of. You can't have a successful democracy unless you have allowed everybody who wants to worship whatever they want to worship it. God gave us wisdom, even though it is illegal in His sight for certain things to be done. He has allowed those of us who live under Christian governments to essentially make leg room for the indiscretion and rebellion of many men and women on the side, because He knows just how oppressive and tyrannical it would feel, and therefore despotic, for a Christian country to insist upon a 100% Christian ethos in legislation. The country will largely be Christian, but because mankind is evil, He will then give them what they want, to worship whatever religion they want to worship. And the only time when God is going to employ 100% Christianity, the only time when the Lord is going to employ 100% faith on the earth, the only time the Lord is going to employ 100% faith on the earth of Christianity, when He's going to, with an iron fist, insist upon His law, it's going to be in the righteous reign of Jesus Christ. It's going to be in the righteous reign of Jesus Christ, the millennial reign, the 1,000 years. Before then, the countries that we live in, we cannot insist that only Christianity run and rule and reign, because in countries where only whatever it is that is their national religion rules and runs and reigns, there is a great deal of oppression, and so there's no peace in that land. Only look at Muslim nations where they insist upon Islam and everything else is illegal. In such countries as these, there's nothing but oppression. There's nothing but tyranny. Right? So the Bible says, if it is possible, strive to live at peace with everybody. The best way that a Christian country can establish peace is to award freedoms of religion across the board. God gave us wisdom that way. He says, behold, I have sent you out there as sheep among wolves. Therefore be innocent as doves, though shrewd as snakes. So when then we establish countries that are Christian, we knew that in order for them to have peace and therefore be what we call democracies, we have got to allow leg room for those who don't want our God to just do what they want to do, but however make it clear that our country is a Christian country. All right, so awarding a freedom of religion is wise, even though it's not ideal, because what's ideal is for there to be an iron fist saying that only Christ is the way. But that can never ever succeed before the righteous reign of Jesus Christ, because mankind is wicked and despotic and rebellious, and there is no perfect ruler on earth but for Jesus that can successfully basically run a Christian regime on earth without being oppressive. Do you understand what I'm saying? He is a servant leader. He knows how to bring people to himself gently. He says, come to me, all of you who labor and are heavily laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So Christ knows how to bring the righteous to himself. And he will know how to establish a righteous reign for 1,000 years without there being resistance against him. Coupled with the fact that in Matthew 10 it is written that the Lord has come upon the earth to bring peace, not peace but a sword. So in the run up to the righteous reign of Christ, there will be nothing but division, meaning that it will be impossible to basically have the kingdom of God on earth unresisted without Christ. So as Christians, in order for us to fulfill the Bible where it is written that if it is possible, strive to live at peace with everybody, we knew that in the countries where we basically put a Christian flag down, we cannot restrict religious liberties to those who don't want to be Christian. We let them be who they want to be. We let them be who they want to be. However, we try to evangelize them for Jesus. It's a very gentle religion that way. We are not coercive. We are not like Islam. We are unlike any other world religion. We properly give people a right to choose, and when they don't choose us, we don't abuse them. We don't insist upon hammering it down their throats that they be who it is that we are. Christian countries are some of the most freest in the world, therefore, where it is that you go. Other nations that insist upon their religion are extremely oppressive. We know that in India, it's Hinduism, and it's rough there to be a Christian or anything else. We know that in many of the Middle Eastern countries, it's Islam. You get my point, and so on and so forth. So we got it right as Christians because we're given what? Wisdom from God. Therefore, in the run-up to the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, we can never ever insist individuals that you all be saints. We can't. But at the same time, barbarism, listen, I apologize, that we cannot just let it go. Everything has to have restrictions. So it would be a bit of a tall ask for me to say that witchcraft be outlawed in South Africa, or anywhere for that matter. As a Christian nation, the Puritans got it right, but look at them trying to lord it over witches with an iron fist. What it produced: rebellion, people feeling oppressed, stubbornness to insist upon witchcraft. It's now today got fans for the opposite end. Those who defend witches because they were apparently unfairly massacred by the Puritan regime. It would only cause people who would feel stymied and squashed under that regime to now herald, pump up the statistics of therefore, and embrace or impress the notion of that other false religion being true. When people are told no, these are the rules, they love to bend them. So therefore, the best way to gently wean a person of darkness is to let them be. However, with them being given an informed plethora of a plethora of information to make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to stay in the dark or not, but without coercing them to join the other side. That's the best way to evangelize. Give them the gospel, let them know what's good. However, let them be if they don't want to come in. Hence why God says that if they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. He doesn't insist that you push and push and push. He also says that if you go into a town or go into a house and they invite you in with hospitality, sit there and bless that household. But if they don't love you, then dust your feet off. It'll be a better day on the day of judgment than it will be for the cities of Sodom and Tyre, Sodom and Sodom and Gomorrah. Essentially, he makes it clear that don't force anyone. Do not hasha. Do not drive it down anybody's throat. If they don't want you, just let them go. Which is why parents that have got children that are, rebellious against their faith, it's a catch-22. It's a gentle, sensitive spot. But if I believe that if you've got a teenager that Ajia is like, I don't want to go to church, don't drag them there. That's the tantamount of forcing a whole country to be Christian. It's not going to work. You're going to produce rebels. Let them stay at home if they want to stay at home. The Bible says, teach a child in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. Let this kid make their own decision if they want Jesus or not, because if you force it down their throat, they're going to do just that which kids typically do. Once they go to university, they will become more debauched than all the other kids on campus. That's why you even find the pastor kid phenomenon. The biggest harlot in the church is the pastor's kid. It is this thing of trying to force religion down kids' throats. You can train them up in Christ, and if they love the Lord, wonderful. If they rebel against Him, treat them the way that Jesus treated Judas. You will remember how Christ with Judas was not harsh, even though he was forthcoming. He did not shun him or reject him or force him to do things he didn't want to do, but he was forthcoming. He was honest, just making it clear that, okay, these are the ramifications of what you're doing, and you are going to betray me. So one of you in these streets is going to end up betraying me. But Christ did not Judas, force Judas to be anywhere that he didn't want to be. He did not do anything that was disquieting to Judas. He was a gentle giant. He was a servant leader. Judas led himself astray without Christ lording it over him with an iron fist. He made his choice. Treat them as well the way that you would treat Peter. Peter too also betrayed Christ, right? 3 times before the rooster crowed. That was Peter. He denied Christ. In the run-up to, when Peter was out here like, hey, don't fight Christ, this what a fish paste trying to stand for Jesus. You know how he even cut off that one guy's ear? Before then, Christ told him, you who was so feverish for me, he was forthcoming. Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. He told Peter, Satan has sought to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you, so that after you stumble for a little minute, you will turn around and strengthen your brothers. So essentially, with gentleness, Christ let Peter know that your antics are going to make you fall apart. But I've prayed for you, that eventually after rolling around in the mud, you come back around to me. He did not lord it over him. He did not rebuke him. He did not harshly treat him because of that activity. And the difference in the same treatment that Christ gave to all of his disciples, the one was Judas, the other one was Peter. The difference was the heart, the decision for God. Judas chose not God. Peter, after stumbling, chose to go back. Peter, after stumbling, chose to go back. So a gentle approach to discipling children gives the kids a shot at either being Judas or Peter. You cannot make them disciples by force. You can only gently train them and admonish them and be forthcoming and straightforward with what are the consequences of walking in sin and in darkness, but without lording it over them, such that on Sunday morning when you go to church, you can say, little Binky, Tocha, let's go to church. If the kid is like, I don't want to go, don't force it. Don't force it. Just let them stay at home. And however, maintain it in your household. That's just how I would do it. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, right? Make it clear that this is a Christian house, and there are Christian rules under this household that you are going to live by. So I'm not going to allow certain television. I'm not going to allow this and that and the other. But when you're out there on the wilderness by yourself, consuming content on your own time, you get to do whatever you want to do, but you have your conscience on you. I'm training you in the admonition of the Lord, and I'm letting you know that there are ramifications to disobeying, dishonoring God. It will result in basically hellfire. You know how Christ preached so much about hell. And if these kids decide to stray, they could be like Peter, come back and strengthen their brothers. After straying and falling apart in varsity, they might, when they turn 27, give their lives to God and be serious this time around. The prodigal son has returned home, or they will perish in their sins. You don't know what's going to happen. At most, you can plant the seeds, but you cannot force religion down anybody's throat. And so the same way that Christ dealt with both Judas and Peter is the same way that countries that are Christian ought to run their legislations. They cannot outlaw all other religions. They cannot, because people have to be awarded an opportunity to choose. Hence why even God in the garden put a tree in there and said that don't eat of that tree, but should you eat out of it, you will surely die. He was giving them free agency so that people could choose him, so that people could make a decision for him. So therefore, people have to be given leg room to make a decision for God, that they might not be embittered by being forced or coerced to be with him, that they might not feel passive aggressive and hostile and like they're little hostages to Christianity, that they might not want to try and steal themselves and so dupe themselves into thinking they're saved. They have to be given a freedom to be Christian. And that's the reason why there's so much oppression in the Middle East on the part of people there under Islamic regimes, under the Sharia law. They just feel shoved down their throat, that religion. And so because it's not a glad submission, a humble submission underneath it, People are just 5 seconds away from bursting. They're 5 seconds away from a civil war. The Lord knew that, and so gave his Christians wisdom, and in and of himself he walked in wisdom, where he awarded people a choice to choose him. So in any country that is a true democracy, there ought to be a freedom of religion across any board. Let them be who they want to be, but understand that this here is a Christian country. These are our rules. This is our constitution. It's under God. Our national anthem is Christian. We have Christian holidays. That's what we choose. But you get to celebrate Ramadan as a Muslim. You get to do whatever you want to do. Celebrate Krishna as a Hindu. You get to do your yoga. You get to do whatever. But this here is a Christian nation. And so we are not going to, as a Christian nation, make it a public holiday, the holiday of Ramadan. No. Because it's a Christian nation, we're not going to make it a public holiday, but we will say congratulations or happy Ramadan. When you are a Muslim, we'll let you do what you want to do, but we are not about to give you our slots. Well, this country not only has placed traditional leaders as people on a government salary, for crying out loud, but I told you guys the other day that at the beginning of this year, 2024, SABC Newsways at ENCA, instead of bringing a preacher or a pastor to prophesy over the country, they brought a sangoma, making it clear that they don't care that they call themselves a Christian country. They insist upon proliferating principles that are not of God, even in their law. I told you about that proposed bill, where it is that they're trying to, under the common law, bring forth the ability for men to take more than one wife, when already they've got that allowance under the customary law. Customary law is under a Christian country's legislation leg room for how to do life if you insist on polygamy, if you insist on customary things, because we are a country that respects other people's religions. So I can understand you putting a clause for customary law in your, under normal circumstances, very common law type country, because you have to make legislation to accommodate the practices of other people in your country that are not under your religion. You get to do that. You get to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? But while you do that, it must also be comprehended through and through that we are a Christian country, and literally that is where it ends. A Christian country, and that is literally where it ends. So when then you start to infiltrate in Christian principles where it's written in God's word, a man shall cleave to his wife, leave mother and father, cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh, and then you undermine that under the common law, you are undermining the Christianity of the country. So a country that's that discombobulated and that confounded and unaware to itself as to what it's going to do tomorrow is going to suffocate the dominant religion that is Christianity. It is going to suffocate Christians. It is going to suffocate saints. And if at all they don't recover from that, it evidences that they're not saints, they're apostate. It evidences that the whole country is apostate when the whole government is trying to pass laws that are undermining its ethos. When the whole country is trying to pass laws that are undermining its original ethos. On that day, we are slowly but surely becoming a witchcraft state. We're becoming an ancestral worshipping state. That's what South Africa is becoming. We are becoming an African spirituality state instead of a Christian state. We are no longer a Christian state. We are only that on paper. But our laws are starting to evidence that we are an African, a traditional, what do you call this? We are becoming a despot for African spirituality, because Christians can no longer breathe in this land. That is what is going on. And I know that that's a thing. We know that that's a thing. Why? Because, listen to this. If in the spirit of proliferating one particular religion and for people to fly like a bird under it, you then oppress other religious groups, that particular religion is the one that your countries run under. And so, seeing as South Africa refuses to regulate the religion of witchcraft, and they are letting them run reign free, rampant in these streets, they are basically saying that South Africa is a witchcraft state, because under witchcraft you can do whatever you want, but all other laws, all other things that can be done in these streets are regulated. All other crimes committed under all other ways in which you can commit them are illegal, except if they're done under witchcraft. They've basically given sovereignty and despotic rule to sorcery, to witchcraft, to ancestral worship, to African spirituality. They've given it free reign, and one of the biggest reasons why it has free reign is because even our leaders subscribe to it. They feel as if though Jesus is a waste of time. They feel as if though praying to a holy God is not going to do anything, because they are so used, these leaders of ours and many of the powerful men and women of the country, they're so used to ill-gotten gain. They're so used to making money by unsavory ways. They are so used to it that prayer is too onerous for them, that consecration and righteousness is just too taxing, it's too heavy, because they realize that they don't have to do very much. They don't have to be good boys or good girls in order to get anything under this darkness. So when your own leaders in and of themselves are witches, when your own company CEOs are witches, when every man, woman and child on the street is a witch, and they prefer it from Christianity because it's just so much easier to basically gain under it. You don't need to be patient. It's all about speedy delivery, instant gratification. You ask for it, and within 2 weeks you get a job. Like you are unemployed, you go to a sangoma, in a month you're already sitting a warm body in a chair in a corporate, whereas prior to that you were unemployed for 2 years. It promises instant gratification, is what I'm getting at. And because you don't have to be patient, you don't have to therefore be so Christian about it. You can just take what you want. You can just steal money from people's bank accounts without there being a smoking gun, without fingerprints. You can commit heinous acts, crimes, all the way down to murder, and get away scot-free with it. And because mankind is born dead in trespasses and sins and instance that our parents conceive us, seeing as there is none of us who do good, no, not one, for all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, seeing as even our most righteous works are like filthy rags, understand, we are not going to first and foremost above anything choose good above evil. If it's easier to do evil, if it's quicker, faster, and if it has grander reward, at least in the short term, you're gonna do it. Human beings are not born inherently patient. We are born inherently hasty. We are also not born inherently good. We're born inherently depraved. We are not born inherently godly. We are born inherently under the God of this world, who has blinded the minds of unbelievers. We are born dead in trespasses and sins, and so we don't naturally choose that which is the right and wholesome thing. So if a country has actually legalized paganism that is so hasty, so impatient, and so disregarding of your fellow man, and so full of theft, larceny, honey, on that day you are of course going to choose it over your conscience, because you are inherently just really depraved as the human race. And a country that does not regulate how far your depravity can go is 5 seconds away from an exquisite volume of anarchy. It is 5 seconds away from being toppled over by anarchy. And our country is now officially a witchcraft state, and anything goes, and people are able to commit some of the most heinous acts because it's quick, it's cheap, it's easy, and there is no smoking gun. It's anonymous. Witchcraft, if it was regulated, herein lies the deal about regulation. So witchcraft is spiritual, so it is largely anonymous, it is unseen, but people can overhear stuff, and people come and they consult the sangoma and they ask for things, right? Think about murder. Murder is a crime in the country. If you kill a person, you go through due process, and then following which you go to prison. Okay, because murder is a crime, no matter how angry people are, they tend to exercise restraint and self-control from killing because they don't want to go to jail. Whether or not they get caught is irrelevant. Just the prospect of getting caught is enough to stay some people from doing it. They don't want to spend the rest of their days in jail, and they also don't want the stigma and the taboo of being murderous, so they don't do it. Only the extreme do it anyway. Only the extreme are serial killers. Only the extreme act on their passions, and they drive knives into their wives' hearts. But largely the majority of society is out here avoiding murder because it's illegal in the country. So what I'm getting at is that if you regulate witchcraft, you will still get people who will kill anyway with it. You will still get people who will steal anyway with it. And you will still get people who will destroy anyway with it. Because even though murder is illegal in the country, there are people who still kill anyway, risking that they will go to jail. but the majority of the country is generally avoidant of doing it because they know there are extreme consequences for it. What I'm trying to explain is that legislation or regulation causes people to stay themselves from trying stuff that's wrong. So if you regulate certain practices within sorcery, limit that constitutional right to a freedom of religion, and say that you can practice witchcraft as much as you want insofar as you're not stealing, you're not raping. Basically, if at all it is under the South African law covered as a crime, you can't use witchcraft for it. Whether or not there are going to be sangomas that are going to do it anyway is irrelevant, or people that are going to consult anyway is irrelevant. Bottom line is, it's going to move underground. It's going to become clandestine. And people are going to think twice before doing it because they are going to fear ramifications should they get caught. It would significantly reduce the number of people practicing it, is what I'm getting at. Because sangomas would now be scared. Every time a person comes into their premises to ask for something that's illegal, they would be scared, wondering, are you an undercover cop? Are you running an undercover operation? Did you get tipped off by somebody that I'm busy doing iskheto? Did you get tipped? And so therefore increasing disease on the earth, a pestilence, something that, how in the world are we going to regulate that? For crying out loud, we can't just let people keep on getting sick from illnesses induced by witches. We can't just allow but basically let people continue to get cancer when they wouldn't have had it coming. Type of stuff that would cause the World Health Organization to be squeamish, to cringe. Like, you can't just induce pestilence into a person's body using magic, for crying out loud. How in the world does the WHO even begin to regulate that? How does that even start to happen? So if at all this stuff is regulated, bottom line is this: people are going to avoid doing it. It's going to significantly reduce those statistics. You know how earlier I was lamenting about how it is that these gender-based violence baboons are still killing us, even though these bandages on cancer are putting these criminals behind bars after they have killed us. But comprehend that if you deal with the root cause, the spiritual source of this darkness, more and more men are going to avoid korobela. They are going to avoid bring back lost lover. They are going to avoid wealth transfer, the decimation of women's careers in order to go and rescue them, come and act like a Prince Charming over Cinderella or whatever. If at all they can illegalize the things that make men entitled to women. Like if a dude is out, you're going to be bewitching you and you don't appropriately respond, all he can do is just go back to the next spell and the next spell and the next spell. But if sangomas are under legislation and they are explicitly told that no more korobela, no more love spells because it's roofies. If they are explicitly told no more bring back lost lover because it's coercion, it's hallucinogens, no more isidliso, no more iskheto, no more putting acne, no more putting ochronosis or diseases in people's bodies, because that is a World Health Organization problem. It's a pestilence and we are trying to eradicate disease on the earth, so you can't increase it. If at all there is a charter as to what spells can and cannot be done, sangomas, albeit some of them being rebellious because they will always be criminals, they will always be drug lords, they will always be murderers, there will be others that will avoid doing it purely because the government has outlawed it. Purely because the government has outlawed it. If it is a crime under the country, under the state, in criminal law, it should be a crime under spiritual law too. So therefore people should get arrested when they commit these crimes. Now because it's an anonymous, it's going to be hard to detect or to spot, but a lot of people by word of mouth, especially when they're like me, when they can't stand it, they will literally go out of their way to go to a sangoma just to make them purge themselves, for crying out loud. There will be people who will investigate. There will be people, whistleblowers, thank you son. There will be whistleblowers saying Gunom Tagati in 3 houses down that is busy doing iskheto, that's busy doing isliso, that's busy doing korobela. That's busy because I know of a friend that went to her, and this is just an anonymous tip-off, and the next thing the sangoma is going to get arrested for that particular practice. And if enough people come forward and say, yes indeed, I'm prepared to testify against this woman because she once agreed to do this for me, or blah blah blah, these people could then face prison time, and the prison time of which should then be equated to however much prison time a person would face if at all they did rape, if at all they did murder for real, if at all they did embezzle for real, if at all they did racketeer for real, bribe, if at all they did kill for real, if at all they did grab a syringe and administer HIV positive blood into the stream of another person, whatever crimes they would have gone down for, like culpable homicide, they will then be liable for those crimes now. Because frankly, my ex-boyfriend did an HIV spell on me, for crying out. That is culpable homicide, like in the worst way. Whether or not, if at all I had contracted it because I did what he wanted me to do, it would have been culpable homicide. He would have literally tried to kill me, so he should be indicted for that. Stuff like that would be enough to prevent him from doing that again. Basically, if you are a scary cat and a coward and you don't want to be known as a criminal, these people call themselves law-abiding citizens. They've got 9-to-5 jobs and all that jazz. They love to be respected in society. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they would not easily commit crimes. They would not just walk into a bank and rob it. But man, oh man, how they love wealth transfers. So if at all those are made illegal in the country, there goes the wealth transfers, the majority of them. And when then people repent from their wicked ways, the Lord turns his face from fulfilling wrath in the country and heals the land. If enough people stop doing witchcraft, the country would recover, but it won't. Do you know why it won't? Because presently, the very people who are in a position to illegalize sorcery love it. It's your presidents, it's your councillors, it's your ministers, it's your prime minister, it is your organizational CEOs. The people who basically lead this country are so involved in sorcery that they're nowhere near, given that they're into ill-gotten gain, regulating the scope of what sorcery can do, because it's benefiting them. And that's why, my precious darlings from South Africa, I'm leaving. Because hell will freeze over first before Cyril Ramaphosa will sign a bill limiting the scope of what witchcraft can do, so as to align it with the constitution and all the other statute of the country, so as to illegalize under sorcery that which is already legal under criminal law or any other kind of law, under various even what is this, civil law, criminal law, whatever might be the various procedures that are involved out there, civil jurisprudence. Under that, whatever is presently disallowable under both umbrellas ought to be disallowable even with sorcery. If at all you can win mammoth damages for certain things being done to you, like loss of income because of people sabotaging your career under the civil law, you should be able to sue for loss of income when a person interrupts with your career using witchcraft. That's what should happen, because if it's illegal under, or if it's disallowable under civil procedure or even criminal procedure, it should be disallowable under spiritual procedure, for crying out loud. That's how this should go. And so if it does not go that way, it says that the country is duping itself into thinking it has a law, because frankly we are all suffering under anarchy. We are all just dealing with a batch of crazy people that are doing whatever they want to do, but they claim that they're running a country. They claim they're running a country. No, they're not. The country has no law. For as long as witchcraft is allowed to run rampant, there is no law. It's anarchy. And our own leaders are practicing these crimes. They're committing these crimes. They're stealing from South Africans. All of these Freemason presidents, what the heck? They're thieves. They are thieves. And it's excruciatingly naive for me to even think that it is possible for the country to be revolutionized like that or reformed like that. It's like it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So my best choice right now is to move to a country that's not so riddled with witchcraft. To move to a land where the reigning principality or entity is not proliferating so much witchcraft junk. Then in that way, I'll be able to be somewhat cool to live out the rest of my existence in that country. You see, when a country practices a whole bunch of witchcraft, It lodges a prince, a territorial spirit that makes every spell work, and it also makes every man and woman on the street and child that is not sober frenzied with it. And South Africa is frenzied with it. It is becoming like a Haiti. So therefore everybody just is taken by the mesmerizing power of it. When the church does not pray and stand in the gap, a country that is frenzied by sorcery will take over the righteous men and women over there. They will eat them alive like Pac-Man. Do you understand? And then you will have no advocating power left to basically ascertain that you don't fall apart under this wickedness. That's what's good. So, le South Africa, you can absolutely dream in thinking that it's ever going to heal when there is so much anarchy because of sorcery. You can do nothing but dream. Your wildest, most exquisite phantoms. That's all that you can ever look forward to. Because a nation that is overwhelmed by sorcery or anything that is overwhelmed by dark arts can only get cured if there is a very strong praying church, which South Africa does not have. Or if there is a somewhat moral government. Absent of either moral government or a strong praying church, you're all done for, and we've got neither. We have got neither. So for those reasons, mina as Karabo sizekele Hlongwane, I'm leaving South Africa. I'm not doing this. My statement over there. It appears disinterest is the motivation. Whether or not I say no is irrelevant. I'm casting my pearls to the pigs, giving what is sacred to dogs, and they're trampling them underfoot and then turning around and tearing me to pieces. What I say is of no essence. Because they trust that their witchcraft state and their witchcraft leaders are going to maintain all their ill-gotten gain because over their dead body before I'm going to lose all my wealth that I got so easily. All in the spirit of trying to cure a country that frankly I'll be dead in 20, 30 years. Let the kids pick up from where I left off. Your leaders are basically leaving a South Africa that has been defecated on for all the future generation to clean up after. And if they were witches that never repented, trust me, their kids are not repenting either. There's no way for me to put my feet down in this land. So I have to go. I'm leaving South Africa. I got a dream of me being underneath some tree in the sweltering sun in a body bag, alive, and some man that was strangely walking around in that desert area doing what, hiking, I don't know, saw this body bag, curiously opened it because he wanted to see if there was a dead body so he could call the authorities and say there's a dead body in the desert. Only for him to open the body bag and find me with a flashlight inside it, busy talking into my phone. That was my dream. I was in a black body bag in the wilderness, and some curious white man that was hiking opened it expecting to see a dead body and call the authorities. And then he saw that, oh my goodness, this person's alive. What are you doing in a body bag in the sweltering heat? You're gonna die. I told you I'm about to get rescued. That was the Lord showing me that somebody is going to click on my content curiously, thinking that there's nothing to write home about since I've got binary code, and then watch so much of my content that they're going to realize that I'm a person that has been left for dead, but I'm alive, and start to do something about my case. In my dream, it was a white man. It was a white man, and the dream ended with him basically getting on his phone to call somebody on some, whoa, there's a person here that I found, like just sitting in the wilderness, and she is suffering, she's struggling, she's dying. I told you, I'm going to get taken out of this. Whether or not you've buried me in a hole, bottom line is the Lord has set apart a means for me to get out of this, and I'm going to get out. I am leaving South Africa. Ain't nobody of you going to do anything right until I'm gone, because you're going to keep on trying until you are basically, until you get what you want, or until I'm dead. You with your gender-based violence, even when I say no, you feel more inspired to push. You feel more dedicated. You feel more dedicated to proliferate your agenda. The more I say no, the more you feel, juiced. Because you're feeling no means yes, and I'm just playing hard to get. I'm about to get discovered. I'm going to get found, and I'm going to get rescued, harnessed out of a hole, a pit that you dug for me. and it's going to be a person that you never ever expected would ever harness me out of this, because they don't generally peruse my content. Because after all, in my dream, it was a hiker in the desert that found a body bag that he was just curiously unzipping to see what's in there, only to find a living woman. That's what God showed me. I'm leaving, like it or not. Watch the space. I'm signing out in the name of Jesus Christ, Cran K. Peace.